Prefiring can give you that split-second head start that you need to easily and flawlessly win a gunfight before it even starts. There is the option of learning common pre-fire spots, but I'm guessing you didn't need me to tell you that those exist. Instead, I'm going to talk about something you probably haven't heard of, which is going to have a broader application for more benefit, as well as not requiring lots of memorization. Today, we're going to talk about how tempo, timing, and positioning can help you pre-fire opponents and set up some unfairly favorable gunfights for easy frags. If you want to be the first to see more videos designed to help you rank up like this one, make sure to click subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll be releasing a video on how to pre-fire shortly. Hello everyone, my name is Atchax and this is When to Pre-Fire. Tempo is the sort of thing that you don't ever think about until you learn it and start noticing it everywhere. The most common reaction I get when I mention tempo is, isn't that a concept in music? And yes it is, but it can also be defined as the rate or speed of an activity, according to Google, or essentially the pace of an activity. While you may not have thought about it, there is a tempo to almost everything in Valorant. This may be a result of the fact that there are only a few movement speeds, so the timing is more predictable. However, it's also a result of player behavior. Our brain automates tasks that we do often over time. Many players automate repeaking, positioning, and things like that without noticing, which causes them to hold the same spots or leave the same amount of time between each peak and repeak. We can exploit that with pre-firing. There are a handful of different methods. Let's break it down. In the first method, a player peaks and then repeaks. In between the peak and repeak, there is a certain amount of time. Usually, it's the same length of time each instance for a certain player, hence tempo. Tempo is consistent and as a result, predictable. You can pre-fire that amount of time, X seconds, after the player unpeaks to catch them when they repeak, before they had the chance to do anything or react to your position. You shouldn't be counting. You'll probably either have or develop an instinct for it. This is part of game sense. The nice thing about Valorant is you can tell the different agents apart. Reyna will not suddenly be Cypher next round. As such, you can just associate a certain timing to a certain player within a game. There are different things to pre-fire. It's not just random tapping. Here are the more prominent ones. Pre-firing the repeak. Pre-firing the timing if the other player reloaded and then repeaked. Pre-firing if they were delayed or mollied or there was some instance that prevented them from immediately repeaking. Pre-firing if they checked the other side of an angle or box. If an operator is rechambering, the rechambering time of an operator is a great time to pre-fire because most players just peek immediately after that operator is done. And other timings that are more player specific. While some shots are random, most have a specific reason behind them to counter a specific tempo. Just like players automate their repeaking, pre-firing also becomes second nature. I almost never think about why I'm pre-firing, which is a good thing, because it gives me room to focus on other components of the game. This method is great for getting a frag when you're out in the open and get flashed. In this situation, you have to try to get the frag while blind, and relying on your pre-firing and timing is a great asset because they barely rely on vision. Tempo is also a great way to compensate for a slow reaction time. This type of pre-fire isn't about shooting at an angle before you've even moved around the corner. It's a pre-fire in the sense that you are shooting before you've registered an opponent, dramatically shrinking the amount of time you need to frag and not giving your opponent a chance to react. It tends to have the same appearance of an incredibly quick reaction time, which is definitely something most Valorant players want. The second thing I'm going to talk about is timing. Timing is basically just how players move in a certain time frame, or at least that's the relevant definition. You may not have noticed this, but most teams consist of players who only play within one tempo, especially on attack. The end result is maybe a team always commits around 30 seconds left in the round. Or maybe they will attack site around 4 seconds after they smoke every time they smoke. Maybe Brimstone always peeks A heaven 6 seconds after the spike is planted. Most teams have a few of these timings depending on the momentum of the match, and you can actually just pre-fire them all. This is also highly automated and left to game sense. It's definitely a lot more difficult to learn than just pre-firing a repeak. Let's talk about how to learn these skills, because even understanding the root concepts can be difficult. Starting with tempo, people underestimate the impact that learning one skill can have on their gameplay and the outcome of their games. The really important two skills are going to be developing your instincts and pattern recognition. The first thing to do is try it. When someone unpeaks, work on listening to your notion to prefire. Then notice how long in either direction you were. Were you too fast or too slow? And then calibrate it for a shorter or longer time before you prefire. Most of the time, you just have to practice reading it and get used to it. With experience, you will develop your pattern recognition, which in turn usually improves your instincts. The end goal is to be able to calibrate it correctly after seeing someone repeak once or twice. Some people just have a knack for tempo and others don't, similarly to music. And that's okay. Either way, I haven't met someone who couldn't improve their reading of tempo. Now for timing. Timing feels pretty abstract and it can be subjective. So be patient with yourself. In the beginning, keep an eye on the clock and get an approximate time when the other team tries to hit sight. From there, you can do the same process of noticing things, developing pattern recognition, and listening to your notions to prefire. It can be difficult to measure success too. Maybe out of 30 prefires, 6 are successful. Yet you could still have all 30 timings correct. It just didn't shake out perfectly because of the variety of factors in the game. Don't worry though. Prefiring happens to be pretty low risk, so missing 24 prefires isn't really a big deal. Prefiring allows you to fill the time where you would usually be trying to register and react to an opponent with solid damage or a frag. It is an excellent asset, and learning pattern recognition will develop your brain so that you can better strategize as well. Beyond tempo and timing, which are more reliable, you can always just prefire when it's low risk. If you aren't giving away your position, prefiring can be completely harmless while also having a high potential reward. If the opponent already knows where you are, prefiring can be a great addition to your attacks. I especially like to take advantage of this when an opponent smokes too shallowly, and I can walk into the smoke and prefire corners through it. The fourth instance is when you pair prefiring with intel. If you know where someone is, whether it's a Silva dart, a camera scan, or a callout, prefiring is a fantastic way to score an entry or lock down a trade. One of my favorite setups while opping is to jiggle peek a corner, and then when I spot one, unpeek and prefire with the repeek. Most of the time this can net an easy frag. As I mentioned before, some players automate positioning. If a player holds the same angle every round, make sure to prefire that individual to win an easy numbers advantage. Something you'll definitely want to incorporate into your game is prefiring a diffuser. Most of the time they're out in the open and you already have the intel as to where they are, which is already a great situation for a prefire. But also sometimes their teammates are covering them and you just want to pick off the diffuser so that you can continue to win the round by playing the spike. We should also talk about some of the situations where you definitely don't want to prefire. And the first is when you're trying to be stealthy. If you're walking somewhere with your team, or a teammate on the other side of the map is making a feint, or you are lurking silently looking for rotation picks, you don't want to be prefiring because this will give away your location and undermine your strategy. In addition, prefiring is not a replacement for your normal aim. I see a lot of players who, if they don't immediately get a frag from their prefire, they go into panic mode and start spraying randomly. You definitely don't want to do that. As soon as you can, you want to be using your precise, quick, and accurate point-and-click aim. Prefiring is a great tool for dramatically increasing the odds that you will win a gunfight with some early opening damage or the occasional insta-frag, but most of the time, it can't compete with normal aim in accuracy, precision, and general adjustability. While prefiring almost always helped me win engagements with that initial damage, it stuck out to me as being exceptionally helpful in two areas. Prefiring was especially powerful with ghosts and other eco weapons because it would allow you to defeat phantoms and vandals and counteract that advantage by giving you a competitive TTK. But what really stuck out to me and what I really noticed was how much extra and free damage I was doing almost every round. A lot of the times when I'm prefiring through smoke, I would deal 50 damage to an opponent that I never even saw, and that would show up later on the report at the end of the round. It was incredible how much damage you can accumulate just by prefiring random corners. There were rounds where I was able to do even more than 100 damage to players that I never even saw, which accumulates a lot over time and can help you win games and set up easy frags for your teammates. In addition, assists are one of the things that are directly listed by the developers as increasing your elo. This ends up being a huge advantage, and it costs almost nothing. Very rarely did I die pre-firing through smoke, and very rarely did I actually run out of bullets to the point that it became an issue. It's probably at the front of the many reasons that you should learn how to pre-fire. That's the guide on when to pre-fire, as well as an introduction to tempo and timing in Valorant. Let me know in the comments if you need anything further clarified, as there really isn't the perfect terminology to explain these concepts, which can make them difficult to grasp by listening. I hope this video had some value for you. Best of luck everyone, and I will see you in the next video.